John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on October the 10th in the year of our Lord 2025. That's 10-10-25. All right, let's get into our daily news update news appetizers.
Feel welcome in this country.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. President Trump and Charlie Kirk were both shot in the head by Democrat donors and far left-wingers. This, of course, follows a spate of left-wing attacks on ICE facilities, federal police officers, general just open terrorism against churches and Americans by the left. They are the party of violence because they are the party of hatred. And where does all hatred come from? Well, it comes from self-loathing. You can't live like that. You live a duality, and you'll eventually snap. And you give them enough time, especially on a live feed, and they will snap. This brings me nicely to Hasan Piker, who is arguably one of the biggest streamers on the left. He has a large audience on Twitch, which is, of course, the sewer of the internet. Nonetheless, Hasan's really big over there, and he's been committing animal abuse on his live feeds. It's a little strange for a guy constantly ranting about authoritarian fascist dictators. Woof, says a cute doggy. Silence! This is not theory. This is something that Hasan did on his live feed. You can watch his cute puppy just yip in pain as Hasan decides to electrocute his dog live on the feed.
It's the same reason as to why America, Kaya, please just go, just stop. Jesus Christ, what are you doing? You're being such a baby.
Dogs don't yip like that unless they're being electrocuted. And it turns out that, yes, Hasan actually does have a electric shock collar for his dog. Some people would say that this is inhumane. This seems to be the educator collar that Hasan has for his dog. Hasan decided to crash out and display his dog's collar, saying that it only vibrates. The internet fact-checked that.
This is the one that people are talking about. Okay, this is the one. This is the one that they saw. It has the capacity to vibrate, and that's it. Are you happy?
This has gone, of course, thermonuclear viral. It is one of the biggest stories in America right now. Hasan Piker electrocuting his dog. Dingbat guests on Hasan's stream, saw the dog collar and were like,
I think her collar's too tight.
Well, it's here we go.
You have to be able to get 2 fingers, and I couldn't even get one. I think you're choking her.
She's like, it's a lot of neck meat.
We'll stay on this story and might be making a couple calls to the local authorities to just make sure that Hasan's dog is living in the correct conditions. You'd hate to see animal abuse charges brought against this guy, given the demonstrable amount of evidence that he's abusing the animals. Wouldn't you? It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya. What's up, guys? It's Ben.
Professor Antifa doesn't feel welcome in this country anymore because he feels unsafe using your taxpayer dollars to teach your kids how to also become anti-fascists. And by that, I mean training them how to hunt down their conservative classmates on behalf of the same terrorist charged with executing Charlie Kirk. That makes him the victim, according to the media, which justifies their followers retaliating against Charlie's supporters for existing. Because their existence is violence against the professor justifying violence against those he disagrees with. That was all part of our super objective media's damage control Wednesday, reminding us all that Antifa is really peaceful.
I would classify it more as a political scapegoat, honestly.
Independent reporters who've experienced otherwise
and was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance and was diagnosed with a subarachnoid brain hemorrhage
must be fake because they've provoked them with their reporting, of course.
How would you feel if every time you showed up to work, masked militants tried to kill you? Because that's how we feel. That's our lived reality. And you guys go and tell us that we're liars, the riots aren't that bad.
No, the media always believes in fiery, but mostly peaceful protests.
Paid my rent this morning. Happy to report I had a whopping $47 left in my bank account. Yeah, no, you want to hang out for sure. Yeah, you should totally come over. We can't turn any of the lights on or the TV because I can't afford the electricity bill. And for dinner, maybe we can have some stale pita chips because, again, can't afford dinner. But yeah, for sure, come over. Like, I'm so glad that I spent 10 years of my life in school getting an education to get a job that was supposed to provide me with job security and financial security, only to kill myself every day at work to be able to afford a roof over my head and literally nothing else. It's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine.
You should not be allowed to sit on the bench if you have views that are fundamentally at odds with the criminal justice system of our country. If you do not share the values of our American Constitution, then you cannot be a neutral arbiter of justice called for in our Constitution. Radical leftists should not be federal judges, period. I don't care if this sounds controversial. It seems obvious. We would not import, for example, a radical Islamist who thinks we're all infidels, thinks that America should be absolutely obliterated as the great Satan. We wouldn't say, well, as long as you keep those opinions to yourself, we're going to let you act as a neutral arbiter of justice as long as you promise that you'll be impartial. No, that's insane. We would never do that. Well, that's the same with leftism. Mainstream leftism is not just, oh, you're kind of left of center. You're a Democrat who's a little bit of a bleeding heart leftist, kind of dumb and naive in your policies. No, leftism now, mainstream leftism, is communism. Communism is against Western civilization, is against every value that America is built on, including Christianity.
Yesterday afternoon, you may have heard New York Attorney General Letitia James, who was indicted by a grand jury on 2 different criminal charges. Combined, if she was found guilty on both, she could be serving 60 years in prison and over $2 million in fines. She campaigned on getting, put that in quotes, Donald Trump.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses. Yes, we need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We need to follow his money. We need to find out where he's laundered money. The days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
And she was indicted on 2 counts, criminal counts, by the way.
They've declared Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. That's exactly what it is by any definition of the term, by any workable, coherent definition of the term terrorist. They certainly qualify. Fundamentally, that inherently violent, and that is their threats of violence, and violence itself are their the tools of their trade. And so this is terrorism. That's absolutely what it is. So if we're going to say that this is a terrorist organization, then that means you have to treat them that way. And treating them that way means that we're not going to just let you go out and engage in this kind of behavior without any kind of consequence. I mean, what actually needs to happen is when you have Antifa mobilizing anywhere, whether it's Portland or anywhere else, what we should be seeing is show up, and it's not let's make 1 or 2 arrests. Yeah. Let's arrest everyone who's doing this and send them to prison, because that's what you do with terrorists. And by the way, we know for sure if the shoe's on the other foot, and if there was any kind of equivalent of Antifa on the right, and there's a Democrat administration and the right-wing Antifa was out there doing what Antifa does, they wouldn't hesitate to go out there and just round everybody up and put them in jail. So that's what we should do too.
Okay, there's our appetizer of news. Let me go ahead and click the Murtech on Rumble link and get us over here to my Rumble channel. This is the video we're watching live right now, episode 1711. Let me go ahead and get into this. Pause this. Here we go. Close out the live chat. And slide down here and click the Show More button to expand the description box out. We have information from Devory Darkins, Vince Dow, Wendy Bell Radio, and X22 Report. But before we get into that, I do need to give some shout outs here to Chin Loy, just started following my channel. Viper Senior commented on my episode 1710. Debbie BS commented a lot on my extra 493B and 493C. Debbie BS also commented on my extra 494A, 494B, and 494C. And Debbie BS also commented on my extra 495A, 495B, and 495C. So thank you, folks, for your comments. Viper Senior and Debbie BS, thank you for following my channel. Chin Loy, let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. Okay, there we have it. And just as a reminder, folks, I have one of those little thumbs up icons, buttons, down here just below the video that you're watching. If you just scroll down and click that thumbs up button, that will definitely help get this information out. Okay, let's see what Devory Darkins has to say. Trump issues shocking announcement as Democrats dealt major blow in Congress. That sounds like fun.
We do have a Fox News alert. Donald Trump, the peacemaker, strikes again. President Trump announcing moments ago on Truth Social that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of a peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps toward a strong, durable, and everlasting peace.
And this takes us to what the president wrote on Truth Social. I'm very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. Now, as you guys know, and like we always do, I show you both sides. So here is Fake Tapper, okay, CNN, and his initial reaction to this announcement from the president. Take a look.
Obviously, blessed are the peacemakers indeed, but it is worth pointing out, this is a ceasefire deal, right? This is not a larger peace deal about a Palestinian state of any sort and who gets to rule a Palestinian state and Israel gets security guarantees, how, and all that. That is still...
No, wait a minute. Wasn't this the guy that was telling us how great Joe Biden was? And the only reason that he couldn't be able to complete a sentence is because of a stuttering problem that he's had for decades? Whereas he didn't have it like 10 years ago. He didn't have a stuttering problem, but the stuttering problem that he's had for decades, all his life, suddenly showed up after he became president, or actually during the time that he was running for president. Isn't this the guy that was trying to convince us of that? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Still TBD, right?
I mean, yes, but, because the yes, but part of that is that, yes, this is the first phase of this deal where the two key parts of that was a ceasefire and the release of the hostages and also the release of Palestinian prisoners that are being held in Israel.
Okay, so number one, let's just talk about the merits of this announcement before I get to Fake Tapper. Two things are true at the same time. One, the president deserves all the credit in the world for what they've been able to achieve up to this point so far. Okay, much more progress than the last administration. It's not even a comparison. And it's also true that we can't trust Hamas and we can't trust Israel because at the end of the day, they've been at war with each other. Will they follow through on this? I hope they will. Okay. But again, you got to let the results do the talking. And now let's get back to Fake Tapper. I mean, CNN, they just can't help themselves. Initial reaction and your, words that come out of your mouth is, yeah, but we just have to do better as media, right? Or I don't know about them, but I know independent media is doing the best that they can, if not better than mainstream media. So let's go to this next clip. This is another reporter from CNN saying that this is a breakthrough for Israel. The people of Israel should be happy about this nightmare finally coming to a close. Take a listen.
Yeah. I just need to underscore what an enormous moment this is for so many people in this region, for the people of Gaza who have endured 2 years of war, for the families of these 48 remaining hostages who have endured 2 years of absolute agony. This is a watershed moment. President Trump announcing that the first phase of this plan will indeed move forward, and that means the release of all of these hostages, an initial withdrawal of Israeli troops within the Gaza Strip, and ultimately, what we have to think and believe based off of the president's tweet point is that Hamas may have received some assurances about this actually leading to an end of the war. Every single source that I've been speaking with over the course of the last week has emphasized that the only scenario in which Hamas would actually agree to give up, to release these 48 hostages, without a total agreement on this 20-point plan would be if they received some kinds of assurances from the United States, from the mediating countries, that these negotiations that will follow the implementation of this first phase of this agreement, that they will actually lead to an end of this 2-year war. And so we're already getting reports of celebratory gunfire in Gaza. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum has just put out a statement acknowledging the enormity of this moment for the families of those hostages who have waited so long, who were waiting with bated breath tonight, as so many Israelis were as well tonight. And also a message from the Israeli Prime Minister just released from his office saying, quote, "With God's help, we will bring them all home."
It's so good to hear. And again, right now, this announcement is about the hostages. Okay, that's what I care about at this moment. But that terrible response from Fake Tapper just continues to show you how mainstream media likes to push propaganda, which takes us to ground news regarding this story. As you guys know, we love to use ground news to see the full picture, what's being reported in the media. This is the tool we use to figure out what both sides are saying as far as the talking points. And it will help you do your own thinking for yourself and come up with your own conclusions, which is why we talk about ground news a lot. Now, I want to scroll down and just make my first point, and then I'll show you a clip from ABC News and their reaction, which I found to be interesting. And as you guys can see, ground news, it pulls in all of the articles and then organizes it by political spectrum. And this article leans left. Just pay attention to the language. Trump claims Israel and Hamas agreed to first phase of Gaza peace plan. Trump claims. Trump claims. It's almost as if they're saying, well, yeah, that's what the president is saying, but we don't know if it's true. I mean, this is how they subtly, cast doubt in the minds of Americans as it pertains to President Trump. Now, let's take a look at this clip from ABC News.
For Israel, make no mistake, this is a huge night, potentially the end of the nightmare. For the people of Gaza, this is going to be an enormous relief. For the people of Israel, potentially the end of a 2-year-long nightmare.
And for these families still waiting for the remaining hostages who are still alive to come home, this has been an agonizing wait. And of course, the families who will get the remains of loved ones who died while in captivity.
Yeah, so what you just saw there is ABC News admitting how big of a deal this is and why it's causing for celebration and why this is true progress. Again, this really makes Jake Tapper, what I call him Fake Tapper, look really bad here. Okay, now let's get back to ground news, because when you research these stories on here, it gives you the bottom line. In these bullet points, just look at this. Hamas plans to release all 20 living hostages soon. So we know by reading this, there are 20 living hostages, while Israeli forces will withdraw from most of Gaza, according to sources familiar with the matter. And what they'll try to do is organize even the bullet points based on political leaning here. So those were left leaning bullet points, and then you have right leaning ones. And again, we love using this because it really helps us do our research, figure out what the talking points are, and understand exactly what the angles are so we can communicate to you in the proper way when producing this show. So if you want to be able to do your own research and do your own thinking, I encourage you guys to use ground news. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devory, or you can download the mobile app.
Attack against our people. When our loved ones were captured by Hamas terrorists. Yesterday, we gathered here in the Sukkah of Hope with the Trump administration. And today, President Trump has done it. He announced just now that our loved ones, the hostages, are coming home. We will not stop fighting until we see the last of the 48 return to their family, those who were murdered in captivity, buried in the land of Israel, those who are still alive, walking through the border and reuniting with us, the families. Thank you, President Trump, for your courage. Thank you, the Trump administration, for doing everything you can to bring them home. Let's do it.
Yeah, that is just beautiful. And again, I'll say it a second time. Please continue to keep these families in your prayers, especially if you've been following this war since day one. It's just quite an experience for them, for sure. All right, let's go to our next story. And this is actually breaking news from earlier today. Didn't get time to actually talk about it during the live stream, but now we're going to react to it. So the Pacific Palisades fire that got out of control, Southern California, where we saw the terrible response from LA Mayor Karen Bass and the failed Governor Gavin Newsom. Well, authorities have caught the guy behind the fire itself. Very interesting. Take a listen.
Some breaking news from the West Coast. An arrest has been made in the investigation of the horrific fire that ravaged the Pacific Palisades area of Los Angeles, killing 12 people, scorching more than 23,000 acres back in January. Officials have just released this photo of the man they accuse of maliciously starting the blaze. They're tying that fire to something that was started nearby several days earlier, allegedly by this suspect. CNN's Veronica Miracle joins us from Los Angeles. Veronica, walk us through what officials laid out was the evidence against this suspect.
Yeah, they had an extensive criminal complaint. They walked us through step by step. And Boris, investigators say 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht was arrested in Florida near his current home for starting this blaze. But they actually say he once lived in the Pacific Palisades about a block away from where they say the trailhead where they say this fire was ignited. So they say that on the night of the fire, he was actually driving for Uber and had dropped off 2 passengers in the Pacific Palisades. They go on to say that this fire was actually started in the early morning hours of January 1st on New Year's Day. And they originally called it the Lockman fire. This was originally the Lockman fire. And firefighters, they quickly suppressed it. They got on scene very quickly, and it was visibly out. But what people didn't know, what firefighters didn't know, is that it was smoldering underground for about a week in root systems and dirt.
All right, let's just pause there at the moment. We will continue to hear what she has to say. I didn't hear that particular detail during the reporting of that this fire originated from another fire because the smoldering flames were still in existence, but under the dirt. I mean, that brand new information. Did not hear that. I must have missed it. Did you guys hear that before? Nope. If you did, please let me know in the comments section.
Amazing, isn't it?
But they're not explaining exactly how he did it, so we'll see what they say next. But that's still, this update does not excuse the poor response from the leadership. No question. Yep. Because imagine how many people have been displaced as a result of this. Will they ever truly be compensated in the right way? Absolutely not. This has changed people's lives forever. And
I've also heard reports within the past week or so that not one house that has burned down, not one property, has been able to start reconstruction of their home because of the mountains of paperwork and red tape that they have to go through just to get the building permits in California. So, what, it's been 9 months, going on 10 months, and not one house has been started that has been burnt down. Okay, I wanted you to hear that. That's a Democrat state for you. Just keep voting Democrat. Yeah, things will work out just fine. Just keep voting Democrat, dumbasses. Okay, this video does come from Devory Darkins. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, we got more great information here. Let's jump back here to see what Vince Dow has to say about CNN and MSNBC admit to historic Trump victory as Gaza ceasefire leaves activists stunned. Now, I hope this thing works out the way planned, but I'll tell you what, Hamas is definitely a backstabbing group. It wouldn't surprise me, which is going to definitely look bad for Donald Trump if they don't come through with what he says they're going to do. We'll just have to wait and see. My fingers are crossed, and it's in my prayers for these people to be released. But let's check out what Devory has to say.
Well, following up on our coverage yesterday of the Gaza peace plan that Trump has successfully brokered phase 1 of between Israel and Hamas, which of course includes a ceasefire in the southern portion of Gaza, needless to say, the liberal media is having a really hard time grappling with this. They have had to go from the stages of denial to grief to outright acceptance in the span of 24 hours, because after all, we understand this is difficult for them. The more mainline liberal figures do not want to give Trump credit for anything, obviously. But furthermore, you also got to look at the harder left progressive Palestine activists who, on top of being anti-Trump, are really struggling right now with the idea of, what are we going to grift off of now? What are we going to performatively scream at Jerry Seinfeld and random celebrities about? And how is it, by the way, that our years of putting on Taliban headscarves and doing these ridiculous performative stunts had absolutely no effect on anything? But how is it that when an actual man of historical consequence and action, not some career moralist or perpetual virtue signaler, but a real guy who does things, comes along and we were against this guy, but he did exactly what we were asking for the longest time, they're scratching their head. They're struggling to deal with, frankly, how insignificant and small they actually are in the face of greatness. That's why they're, by the way, screaming, oh, Trump may have finally gotten it done, but he's still bad because the war went on for 6 months or this or that, or, he still supports Israel. Shut up, Mehdi Hassan. All you freaking, progressive Palestine characters, you're being called out. You've been totally smashed in the fact that you realize, you're wrong about everything. You don't understand things. And, needless to say, turns out the quote-unquote pro-peace president that you keep on claiming is actually pro-war is exactly what he was claiming he is. So that said, guys, we'll tell you all about it in today's video. I want to show you some of the reactions of liberal media from start to finish, right? At the point where they're like, no way this can be real, to finally they realize it's real and say, with very cold faces, look, we got to give Trump credit. Look, he did something really impressive here, which he did, by the way. He basically brokered, understand this, guys, he brokered a peace deal between, first of all, Hamas, which is an Islamic terror organization, and Benjamin Netanyahu, who is arguably the biggest expansionist neocon in the world. So it's actually a miracle in a sense, right? How do you get a neocon in an Islamic terror organization, career enemies for decades, to agree to stop fighting? Because he did a very significant thing here. And that's what some people are struggling to grasp, and that's what some people are finally now being forced to accept in the media. That said, guys, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. That is the best way to support our work and ensure that we can keep doing these videos. And that said, let us start with a timeline here last night when CNN finds out about the first brokering of phase 1 of the peace deal, and they don't really want to admit that it's actually happening. Take a listen.
Obviously, blessed are the peacemakers indeed, but it is worth pointing out, this is a ceasefire deal, right? This is not a larger peace deal about a Palestinian state of any sort and who gets to rule a Palestinian state and Israel gets security guarantees, how, and all that. That is still TBD, right?
I mean, yes, but, because the yes, but part of that is that, yes, this is the first phase of this deal where the two key parts of that was a ceasefire and the release of the hostages and also the release of Palestinian prisoners that are being held in Israel.
Can't these people just be happy for 1 second? By the way, I understand it's a process, okay? They're not factually wrong.
No, they can't be happy because they cannot allow Donald Trump to have any wins. Because every time he has a win, and he's had a lot of them, he's only been in office 9 months, and he's had a lot of wins with the economy, with making peace deals, with showing people how ignorant the Democrats are. I mean, that's a win in itself. They cannot allow him to have wins because it makes them look like dumbasses, which he does every day, make them look like dumbasses.
That there's still a lot of work that has to be done in the reconstruction. And yes, it's true to the critics that there is no saying that the deal won't immediately get violated and the war starts over again.
Yep.
I do think that parts of the peace plan try to set up the incentive structure, and this is why it's smart so that that does not happen. On one hand, Hamas has agreed to relinquish power and governance in the Gaza Strip, so they're not going to be the ones leading, say, a restarting of the war. On the flip side, I think the fact that Middle Eastern nations have been called to basically create something of a buffer zone in Gaza from Israel, and the increasing international pressure that's obviously on Netanyahu is something of a incentive for them to disarm and for them not to restart the war. Again, it can't happen. Who knows? But again, the overall pattern here is what? Just not wanting to give Trump credit for anything. And I think especially the whinings of progressive commentator Mehdi Hassan do sum it up. Here's what he had to say, by the way. After, again, Trump did a very miraculous thing here, saying, quote, "I love that we live in a world where we're all supposed to now praise Trump for his peacemaking and ignore the fact that at least 20,000 Palestinians, well, that's, unknown, but okay, fine. Let's just say 20,000 Palestinians have been killed on his watch with bombs and bullets and rhetorical support that he supplied to Israel. That's all the race now, right?" Just bitter seething, as I said. Okay, first of all, the war didn't start under Trump. It obviously started under Biden. Now Trump can officially say he's the one that stopped it pretty early on, I should add, into his presidency. And he's just standing here, of course, seething about it. So, no, he's still bad, still a bad guy. Wham! But this is something that I actually called and predicted yesterday. I said Palestine activists aren't going to give him credit for a number of reasons. But I think it really boils down to this, right? They're upset they don't get to performatively virtue signal anymore. It's like, what are we going to talk about now, right? How are they going to continue on the grift without, again, Greta Thunberg sailing her sailboat to Gaza and then getting really upset when the IDF said you cannot take your little boat into an active war zone, or like randomly doing videos screaming at Jerry Seinfeld, right? Which apparently these people believed to be genuine or sincere political activism, I've long called out that protest movement as basically a bunch of LARPers who are completely insincere and performative about everything. And that's coming as someone who's not a blanket defender of actually everything Israel has done over the course of the conflict or recent history, right? I think anyone who actually looks into the conflict with a neutral and objective sense of mind will realize, there's complexity and nuance to a lot of aspects of this story, and to just scream, it's genocide, let's attack Jerry Seinfeld, he's supporting genocide, or, on the flip side, say that, okay, we should have total regime change in Iran and maximum war in the Middle East, both sides of that. And part of the reason, by the way, I've been so, trusting of, listen, let Trump do his work on the peace plan, is because foreign policy is not based on slogans, which is interesting because a lot of neocons used to say that to us, but it's true, right? You can't just dictate it off of bumper sticker slogans. There's complexities to navigate, there's nuance to deal with, and actually, as a matter of fact, I personally believe that Trump's Gaza peace plan adequately addresses a lot of it. And that is, of course, again, why the performative Gaza activists, as one example, just are so stunned by this, because again, they fail to comprehend any of that nuance or complexity to the situation. And of course, what is that really about, right? I'm going to call them the career moralists, right? These people are kind of shocked that no longer will they have the ability to performatively create this scene and play dress up and basically argue to the rest of the world that they're such virtuous, amazing people. We call it virtue signaling for a reason. In reality, one could argue many of these people never really actually cared about Palestine. It's a similar thing to BLM, where again, it's a public opportunity to cosplay as some type of revolutionaries and post pictures on Instagram showing how great of people they are to the rest of the world, ultimately for attention or whatever else, right? So a lot.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. And, he's absolutely right. And just as I said before, the Democrats cannot allow Donald Trump in their minds, although I believe a lot of people that have supported him over the years do realize the great things that he's done. Immigration, stopping the flow of people coming into the country illegally, and actually trying his best to get some of them out, even though these left-wing judges are standing in his way every step of the way. It's unbelievable. And I don't think that the Democrats are getting the support for their actions that they would like to have. In fact, I think they're losing support. But for some reason, which is great, actually. Don't stop an enemy trying to destroy themselves. Don't get in the way of that. But you would think that they would stand back and say, this doesn't seem to be working. We might want to try something else. You know, if they were to actually go along with some of the things that Donald Trump is doing and actually trying to take part of the credit for that, instead of everything that he does is bad, when actually it turns out to be good, people say, hey, that's a good thing. I don't get it. I don't frickin' get it. Okay, this video does come from Vince Dow. I'm subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. I want to give some information here from Augusta Gold.
Did you know the biggest threat to your retirement is not something that's talked about often?
Our increased longevity in America means default retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, and TSPs may not suffice.
If you have over $100,000 in your retirement account, get instant access to a free 2-minute report from Augusta Precious Metals that reveals the one step you can take to secure your financial future. Text SAFE to 35052 today.
Okay, jumping back here to our lineup, Wendy Bell Radio, Big Tish, and the Big House. Okay, well, let's see what Wendy has to say. We're going to start this up just coming into after her first break at about the 23-minute mark. So let's see what she has to say.
Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. Honestly, if you think about just these last 9 months, what this president has accomplished, what he was able to accomplish in his first 4 years with the deep state doing everything they could to lie about him, to destroy his presidency before he even settled in, to plant Democrat deep state insiders within his administration, think Bill Barr. I mean, the list goes on and on. Did you see that the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is carving through the Defense Department, and have identified 300 people within the military or the civilian services who celebrated Charlie Kirk's assassination, and they're peeling these people out of public service. Look, that's not just conduct unbecoming. That's conduct that's un-American, that's immoral, that's disgusting, that we reject. You do not represent the values of hundreds of years of sacrifice and the million lives that have been lost in this country to war, if that's how you're going to behave. No, thank you. It's so interesting to me, and I think more and more people waking up and seeing these headlines. By the way, where are all of the Free Palestine people? Where are all of the protesters? Free, free Palestine. Where are you? Because you should be out and about. You should be jumping for joy. There should be celebrations in the street, right? These people who are all like, you don't know what's going on. No, we do. And Donald Trump just fixed it. So where'd you go? It's like all the vagina hats. Once the photo op is over with, the real women's libbers are exposed for not really caring about much of anything except, I don't know, creating the illusion of outrage. We have a lot of imposters, don't we? A lot of people who are desperate. Yeah, I'm not thinking this president's one of them. Just don't get that vibe. So all this talk, 2 straight rare minutes of the, quote, mainstream legacy media reporting almost incredulously that President Trump was able to, with Steve Witkoff, with Jared Kushner, get these parties, Hamas and Israel, to agree to just stop blasting each other and killing one another, right? You got to hear this. It's not something I expected.
Make no mistake, it looks like President Trump has actually pulled off something here that many presidents before him have failed to do.
Just need to underscore what an enormous moment this is for so many people in this region, for the people of Gaza who have endured 2 years of war, for the families of these 48 remaining hostages who have endured 2 years of absolute agony. This is a watershed moment.
We've heard it again and again from a number of people today, really giving credit to President Trump for getting this deal over the finish line. What are you hearing from your sources with regard to President Trump's role in getting both parties to sign off on at least the first phase of this peace plan?
Well, certainly this is an enormous moment for the world, but also for this administration, a big win for the president, who has been very personally involved in this, Lindsay.
Is a major accomplishment for President Trump, something that he's been really trying to work toward. There's been a lot of critics and questioning of whether or not he could pull off sort of negotiating and working to try to get all these sides together. Of course, there were a lot of nations involved, so this is, of course, not just a victory for President Trump, but really a number of Arab nations, Hamas, and, of course, Israel. But this is really huge news, and the president, of course, announcing it online.
So what do you make of what the president has said in a social media post, that they've signed off on the first phase of the peace plan? What does that mean to you?
Anderson, momentous day. There's not much good news in the world. This is great news. I am trying to hold it together, honestly. I've worked on this issue a very long time.
Israel, make no mistake, this is a huge night, potentially the end of the nightmare. For the people of Gaza, this is going to be an enormous relief. For the people of Israel, potentially the end of a 2-year-long nightmare.
And for these families still waiting for the remaining hostages who are still alive to come home, this has been an agonizing wait. And of course, the families who will get the remains of loved ones who died while in captivity.
I mean, I wasn't expecting that. And did you understand how they said it too? The president announcing it online. He circumvented the news. Yeah. You are no longer of value to me. You lie. You make up stuff. Yeah. You openly propagandize your viewers. And then you pretend that you don't. And when you get caught, you blame the people you prosecute and persecute and feign your own victimhood. Trump going around the media and putting out all of his news first on the platform he created because the left tried to silence him and keep him from being in contact with you. I mean, think about the lengths that they've gone. So what would it take for somebody like President Trump to win a Nobel Peace Prize? You guys, if he found the cure for cancer, that wouldn't be enough. If he solved the world's hunger.
And if you haven't heard this, just as an update, he did not win the Nobel Peace Prize. Some lady from South America, I don't know, she was some opposition party person. I don't know the details on it. I just saw a snippet on it. And I wanted to go ahead and relay that, but no, he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, even though he does deserve it. Even without this, even before the other 7 or 8 conflicts that he's resolved around the world. But I guess the Peace Prize, actually creating peace among conflicting countries, that doesn't coincide. Peace Prize, creating peace. Nope. Sorry, doesn't work.
Problems. That wouldn't be enough. If he tapped into forever resources and water that's abundant, right? Never would be enough. Never. And you know what? He knows that. And he's okay with that. Because remember, President Trump said something about his legacy. And his legacy isn't for you, and it's not for me. It's for his grandchildren, and thereby America's grandchildren. To make it the way it was supposed to be, to make it great again. When we come back, Marco Rubio, holy cow, at this cabinet meeting, speaking, almost tearing up, taking us inside how that peace deal happened. So unique. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get past our commercial break here. This is a radio program. They're at the bottom of the hour, so the news channels that carry her
Contained
video,
a very
or her program has, their local news and weather and their own advertisements and stuff. So we'll get into
healthy.
this. Get past this break.
$199 radio program. Delighted to spend some time with you and share my, common sense conservative values. I don't think that traditional family values, traditional way of looking at the world through the lens of being a good person and doing the best you can do and leading by the best example you can by your children. I just don't think this is complicated. I don't think I'm going to say anything to you any more than I do any other day. That makes you say, wait, what? I don't know about that. So this whole hostage negotiation thing, this is what I think everybody, this whole peace deal in the Middle East is really predicated on how this is going to roll out. And I think it's important, beyond important. It's sort of like, it's easy to forget about people. It just is. It's easier to go to bed every night not thinking there are a couple dozen innocent people who quite literally have been tortured for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Because of a war between two sides. And Donald Trump said, we're going to get them home. There is nothing more important. Stop the killing and bring the victims who've been held in the middle home. And the word that we're hearing is that there are 48 Israelis in Hamas captivity, if you will, and only 20 are alive. 28 have been killed. Like, and here's what's really horrible. Hamas doesn't know where their bodies are, right? So that's your son or your brother. All of the hostages that are alive are men. I don't know all of the others who have died. But you don't get to grieve and heal until that is fixed and what's left of the one you love is back. And you can be thousands of miles away. You cannot be Jewish. You can say you don't care about the Middle East. It's not important to you. And yet it hurts. And Trump knows that. And this is the most important part of the operation. So this Hamas leader, a senior Hamas leader, declared Thursday that the militant group has agreed to this ceasefire with Israel, and that has paved the way for the release of all these remaining hostages tomorrow. This is Khalil al-Hayya, now the top surviving leader of the organization. Look, this doesn't happen if Israel doesn't do what Israel does, if they didn't mercilessly pound them. But everybody now is like, enough. Let's do the swap. Let's make it happen. Tomorrow is apparently the day. Now, when Trump goes, where he goes, is he going to Egypt where all these diplomatic things are happening? I don't know. We'll find out. I don't have his travel plans. But I heard something yesterday, and it was Marco Rubio, who has been, think about the people that Donald Trump has put in his cabinet who had been presidential candidates with him back in 2016, 2020, or otherwise, who he has cherry-picked. Little Marco. Well, little Marco has been a phenomenal secretary.
Yes, he has.
And he said something very candid and raw yesterday at this cabinet meeting that I want you to hear. It is 3 minutes. You deserve every moment, because it is rare that we get an inside look at the behind-the-scenes negotiations that lead to something as momentous as loved ones getting their family members back. Here's Marco Rubio.
I don't know if one day perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved. It really began with your trip to the Middle East, where these relationships were forged with partners in the region, personal relationships, close relationships that created the foundation where all this was possible. Where I think this really took a turn. Remember, a month ago, no one thought this was possible. Where it really took a turn about a month ago, less than a couple weeks ago, is when we were at the United Nations and you convened a historic meeting, not simply of Arab countries, but of Muslim majority countries from around the world, including Indonesia was there, Pakistan was there, and created this coalition behind this plan. Then on that following Monday, you met with the Prime Minister of Israel here, and that plan was presented. And then, of course, our great negotiating team followed up on it. In the interim, again, perhaps the stories will be told, perhaps they will never be told. The President had some extraordinary phone calls and meetings that required a high degree of intensity and commitment and made this happen. And I think what's important to understand is that yesterday what happened was really a human story. There's a geopolitical aspect to it, there's no doubt about it. It creates the conditions for Gaza to one day be a normal place again and people to have a better life and Israelis to be safe. But yesterday was a human story. And because of the work you put in, and honestly, not only is there no other leader in the world that could have put this together, Mr. President, but frankly, I don't know of any American president in the modern era that could have made this possible. Because of the actions you have taken unrelated to this and because of who you are and what you've done and how you're viewed. And this weekend, because of that, at some point very soon, we are going to see 20 living human beings emerge from the darkness into the light for the first time in 2 years. And that is because not only were you used the credibility and the power and the prestige of this office and the relationships you created, and you committed yourself to making it happen. And I think it will go down as a historic moment in the history of our country and something our country should be very proud of, that we have a president that's committed to not just peace, but to the human aspect of reuniting these families. My last point on this is just a couple of days ago, Secretary Lutnick hosted us all, many of us, at the Kennedy Center. And we have these families, we've interacted with them for so many years, for 2 years now. And the stories are heartbreaking, both whose families are alive and those who are deceased as well, who want their relatives back so that they can complete the process of grieving. And we had all hoped that perhaps that was the day that we would have an announcement for them on the anniversary of the 7th. But I know you were able to speak to some of those families last night. And I just hope the whole nation understands how incredibly proud they should be of their president and of their country.
Okay, great. And he's right. The people of this country should be proud of Donald Trump, the things that he are doing, rather than calling him Hitler, a Nazi, and people that follow him are Nazis. Okay, let me click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. I am following her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. My goodness, she got 4,040 at least thumbs up on this. Great information, folks. Okay, let's jump back here and move on with X22 report. Episode 3749B. Did the D's project the start? Did the D's project the start of the insurrection? Trump trapped the D's with peace. Okay, let's see what that's all about. All right,
let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see why they're having a very, very difficult time. There's panic everywhere. Trump and the Patriots, they're basically trapping them in everything that they have done over the many, many years. And now with the indictment of Comey, and now we've just learned the indictment of Letitia James, you could see where all this is headed right now. And they are now starting to panic like we've never seen before. And this is why, with everything that is happening, they're going to have to push major, major distractions. And we know that they're going to be pushing an insurrection. You could see they're fighting with everything that they have to keep the illegals in position, to keep Antifa in position, to keep their criminals in position, because when all else fails and they have nothing else to lose, what are they going to do? They're going to push riots. Plus, they're also going to try to push war. And this is going to be a major problem for them because, again, you have one side, and we've said this many times before, you have one side where they are war makers. And then you have the other side, which is Trump and MAGA. They are peacemakers. So Trump right now is trapping the deep state players in peace because they don't know what to do with peace. They don't want peace. And when there is peace, of course, they can't say, hey, we want war. So all the warmongers have to say, hey, this is a great thing. And in the background, without anyone seeing what they're really thinking, they're saying, crap, this is no good. We can't have this peace. We want war. That's the whole purpose. We need a distraction. And step by step, what do you think Trump is going to do? He's going to shut down the warmongers. Here we are with Gaza right now. He's making a deal with Israel, ending 3,000 years of war in the Middle East. We're going to have nations sign on to the Abraham's Accord, and the only nation that's going to be left is Iran. And eventually what Trump is going to do, he's going to have peace with Iran. Actually, Iran is going to be isolated. Now, again, the deep state players, they might try some type of false flag in the beginning stages. They might try to do something, but I don't think it's going to work this time around. Plus, if you notice, since Trump went ahead and made the peace deal, we have certain nations like France, Germany, UK. They're all saying, hey, you know what? We could step in now and we can make like a peace negotiation board. Maybe we can help out. Of course, they're jumping on the bandwagon. And do they really want peace, or are they creating the board to actually push us right back into war? Maybe these installed politicians should worry about their own countries because, you know, Starmer's in trouble, Merz is in trouble, Macron's in trouble. Many of these installed politicians, they are in trouble. And you could see that they're going to do whatever they possibly can to try to make sure there isn't peace. But I think Trump, I think he has a handle on this. And I think the world now is watching and they're saying, holy crap, this guy deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. Just think about it. Just a couple of days ago, the officials in the Nobel Peace Prize says there's no way we're going to give it to Trump. But they gave it to Obama, who did absolutely nothing. Actually, he started more wars and he didn't even do anything. And they awarded him the Nobel Peace Prize. Actually, he destroyed the country. I think Trump just said this. So think about all of this and think about what is happening right now. Trump now is trapping them step by step in peace. Remember, they are the war makers. So every step of the way, the deep state players, they're being boxed in, and it's becoming more and more difficult for them to do anything. And in the end, they won't have any type of ammunition left because, again, once they move forward with their riots, once they try to bring us to war with Russia, and it all fails, and Trump and team cleans it up here in this country and there's no riots, and negotiates peace with Russia and Ukraine, what does the deep state players have left? What do the deep state players around the world, what do they have left? They have nothing left. This is how you weaken the deep state players every step of the way. Trump right now is gaining tremendous leverage. As the people see this, not just in this country, but around the world, the people are watching this very, very closely saying, wow, it took this outsider a couple of months to negotiate peace. Remember, he hasn't been president that long in his third term. I mean, it's not even a year yet. And already he's negotiating peace with Gaza. Think about how many wars he stopped already. Is this the 8th one already? I think with Iran, I think that's going to be 9, and Russia and Ukraine is going to be 10. When it's all said and done, when you look back in time, they're going to say, wow, President Trump was voted in. It took him, 8-9 months, negotiated peace. That is record-breaking time. Unbelievable. We're going to be talking a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about what's happening out in California because they caught the arsonist. And remember, during the fires, we had Gavin Newsom out there letting everyone know that this is a wake-up call for climate change because they were trying to convince everyone that the fires were created because of climate change. They're just starting up. This is what happens.
Yeah.
And then, of course, as we know, there was an arsonist. And I do believe it's probably more than one. And who was behind all of this? Because, again, this guy just didn't wake up one day saying, listen, I just want to start fires all over the place. I do believe this was a coordinated effort, just like with Antifa. We've come to learn that, hey, our taxpayers have been paying for Antifa, which I think we already knew.
Mm-hmm.
I think we already knew that a lot of the money was transferred into Soros and many other NGOs.
Well, now the mainstream media is saying there is no Antifa. This is all something Trump made up. There's no organization, Antifa. When Jiminy Christmas, during the George Floyd peaceful protests, they were burning the shit out of buildings and cars and everything else. And anti-fascist, Antifa, that's what was leading it. That's who was leading it. But now, this is all made up. There is no organization, Antifa.
Transferred into Antifa, and we've been paying for all these people. And what's very interesting about Antifa is when people say, don't they have jobs? Yeah, they have a job. They're getting paid to be Antifa.
Yes.
That's their job. That's what they're paid for. And who's paying for, let's see, fires, destruction, looting? Oh, wait, we the people are. Just like with everything else. But when you look at the California fires, you could see that Newsom, he was able to snow the Democrats there. They truly believe that all these fires were because of climate change. Rasmussen Reports put this out in January 2025. How likely is that the recent wildfires in Los Angeles, California was caused by climate change? National Democrats only. 45% very likely, 32% somewhat likely, 10% not very likely, 6% not at all likely, 7% not sure. So basically, all these people were convinced that it was climate change. Paul Sperry says virtually every major fire in California that global warming zealots have claimed was caused by the climate change turned out to be caused by either an arsonist or a public utility spark. And think about it. If we didn't have all this dry brush, if we had the water in the reservoirs,
Yes.
if the fire hydrants were working, would we have a problem there? No. But the bigger question is, you have to go back to the source. Who is actually paying for all of this? And think about it. This left-wing terrorist, Jonathan Rinderneck, he donated to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris through Act Blue. This should tell you everything you need to know. And you can see the D's, it looks like they're trying to provoke ICE, trying to provoke the National Guard. And I don't mean that just screaming in their faces. I think the D's right now, they're trying to push the insurrection. And I think Adam Schiff kind of spilled the beans on what their plans are. We'll be talking about that in just a second. It actually, from what I'm going to tell you next, it kind of goes along with this, and you can see what they're trying to push. So basically, we had an incident, and there was a Tahoe that was driven by Border Patrol, ICE, and there were two vehicles that were boxing in the Tahoe, trying to make it crash or maybe something else happened here. And one of the individuals in the Tahoe, the Border Patrol, took out a gun and said, back off. And I think what the deep state players are trying to do is they're trying to provoke ICE,
Yes.
National Guard, to try to do something. And think about how Antifa operates. They get in your face, they get very close to you, or they'll push their body into you, and they'll say, hey, look, they're hitting me, they're touching me, they're doing this. They've been trained to do this. Yes. But look what Chris Murphy put out of Connecticut. This is out of hand. These agents are there to cause trouble and violence, not to keep people safe. These are the scenes that play out in war-torn, destitute countries, not America. Well, Tricia McLaughlin had to correct him and everybody else, and she said the following. Here is the real story. As Border Patrol was conducting a targeted enforcement, a vehicle started aggressively trailing our officers and intentionally veered into their vehicle in an apparent attempt to ram law enforcement vehicles. Despite the barrage of violent attacks, DHS Gov, law enforcement, these agents fully followed their training. This is a pepper ball gun used for riot control without causing lethal injuries. Aggressors and violent activists who wish to harm and intimidate our officers. Should not be surprised when protective measures are displayed to prevent violence against our officers. We aren't playing. Now, think about what the deep state players are trying to do here. They were trying to provoke the officers into firing. I don't think they realized it was a pepper ball gun. And again, this is not the response they actually wanted, but they used the gun sticking out of the car to create the illusion that it was a real gun, that they were going to murder these people.
Okay.
And I do believe this is what they're trying to do to start the insurrection. We'll be talking about Adam Schiff in a little bit.
Self-defense. I would call that self-defense. If someone's trying to ram your car off the road, I believe that would be self-defense to prevent them from doing that. But who am I?
And you can see, once again, the governors, the mayors of all these different states where they have to keep their illegals intact, their criminals intact, Antifa intact.
That's it.
They don't want to budge, and they're going to keep the rhetoric up because, again, their only alternative, because they have nothing else to lose, is to actually start the insurrection. And it looks like Governor Pritzker took a shot at Pete Hegseth, and this is what Governor Pritzker said. Pete Hegseth was busy ignoring his job and doing push-ups as part of a show for the Guinness Book of World Records, while Illinoisians are being invaded by Trump's military troops. Well, Pete Hegseth responded and said, Governor, you might try a push-up or two. In the meantime, our troops will do the job you refuse to do. Boom. He just got him.
Yeah.
And think about it. Every time these people try to speak up or try to get anyone in the Trump administration, they hit these people back really, really hard. And you can see that Governor Pritzker, he is now issuing a challenge to Trump, and he's telling Trump to come and get him. Well, eventually what's going to happen is he'll be arrested. I think Trump is already letting us know that, yeah, he should be arrested. Well, think about it. If they're all for the insurrection and they're supporting Antifa, they're supporting the illegals, they're supporting the criminals to go after federal troops, that is the insurrection against a sitting president, isn't it? Does that mean he can be arrested?
Yes.
I do believe so. But the other thing that's very interesting, and Dapper Detective put this out, is that a Chinese illegal alien harbored by Governor Pritzker in Chicago was just indicted for running a human sex trafficking ring in Ohio. So basically, this individual came into this country illegally. And this individual is Zhao Ping Peng, 53, of Chicago, Illinois. He was on a list of serious felony charges tied to a prostitution and trafficking enterprise that operated out of a so-called Chinese spa located on Delaware Avenue. So Peng entered the United States illegally during the Biden administration and managed to remain in Chicago after filing an asylum claim, a loophole frequently exploited under the administration open border policy. And this was in Pritzker's state. And now this individual is being indicted. So basically,
that's okay, though.
More and more criminals. That's what we have in this country.
And as far as Democrats are concerned, that's okay. It's okay for criminals. We're going to harbor them. You know, we're going to create a safe house for them. Okay? A safe zone for the criminals. Because that's what the frick Democrats do. Just look around.
Homeland Security put this out and says, Governor Pritzker is doing everything in his power to protect criminal illegal aliens and domestic terrorists. He continues to shamelessly lie about the brave men and women of federal law enforcement and their targeted operations. Pritzker lie. This is an unconstitutional invasion of Illinois by the federal government. For weeks now, Trump, Kristi Noem, Gregory Bovino have brought their militarized ZBP, CPP, and ICE agents to the streets of Chicago to cause violence and chaos in the city. Facts. This is neither unconstitutional nor an invasion. Trump has the authority under the Constitution to deploy troops wherever they're stationed to defend federal facilities from attacks. Whether it's the ICE facility in Broadview or the courthouse in Portland, we will defend federal property wherever they're under siege. Pritzker lie. They're raiding neighborhoods where instead of going after bad guys, they're just picking up people who are brown and black, then checking their credentials. Facts. Since Operation Midway Blitz began in Illinois last month, ICE and CBP officers have arrested more than 1,000 illegal aliens, including the worst of the worst pedophiles, child abusers, kidnappers, Tren de Aragua, gang members, and murderers. Allegations that DHS law enforcement officers engage in racial profiling are false. What makes someone a target for immigration enforcement is if they are illegally in the U.S., not their skin color, race, or ethnicity. Pritzker lie. People are getting detained. They're getting arrested. U.S. citizens. They did this when they raided a building in the middle of the night in South Shore. 130 people. They were emptied out of this building. They were going after a few gangbangers, and instead they broke windows, they broke down doors, they ransacked the place. They are the ones that are making it a war zone. Fact. ICE does not arrest or deport U.S. citizens. Any U.S. citizen arrested are because of obstructing or assaulting law enforcement. Law enforcement conducted a targeted operation at an apartment building in the South Shore community of Chicago. This operation resulted in the arrest of 37 illegals. Among them were Tren de Aragua gang members and violent criminals. Pritzker lie. There were people who were held, elderly people and children zip-tied, elderly people held for 3 hours at a time. Facts. Children were never zip-tied. This claim originated from a viral parody video on TikTok. The officer in the video was the father of the toddler seen in the image. Pritzker lie. On September 12th, I shot and killed a man in Franklin Park, a nearby suburb of Chicago. His name was Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Reports say that he had just dropped his kids off at a daycare and was headed to work. Facts. Silverio was an illegal alien who, when law enforcement ordered him to stop his car, instead drove his car at the officers. One of the ICE officers was hit by the car and dragged significant distance. Fearing for his own life and broader public safety, the officer fired his weapon. Despite his injuries, the officer and his partner immediately started administering emergency medical care to the illegal alien, who was pronounced dead. Gonzalez, who was the target of the operation, was a criminal illegal with a history of reckless driving. Pritzker lie. In the small suburb village of Broadview, with a population of 8,000, federal agents have turned 2 blocks of protest areas into a war zone by firing tear gas and chemical agents at peaceful protesters. Facts. Rioters in Illinois have been anything but peaceful. Over the weekend, Border Patrol law enforcement officers were ambushed by domestic terrorists that rammed federal agents with their vehicles. One woman, Marimar Martinez, driving one of the vehicles, was armed with a semi-automatic weapon and has a history of doxing federal agents. She took defensive fire from the CBP agents, has been discharged from the hospital, and is currently in the custody of the FBI. The driver of another vehicle, Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, involved in the ramming, has been apprehended by law enforcement. So basically, he just continues to lie, and these are criminals that are in this country.
Okay, that's the Democrats for you, folks. And you know, I'm putting this information out to you, this factual information, in hopes that you will possibly share this on with other people. You know, you can share this on your social media platform or what. There might be some people that actually listen to this, and maybe their eyes might open up and think, well, I have been lied to. It's happened before. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from
out of Connecticut.
X22 report. I'm like 11 minutes into this 58-minute video. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. So actually I'm 19 minutes and 42 seconds into this 58-minute video. So there's a lot of great information left in here. The link to this video is in the description box, as is the link to all the videos that I shared with you. And all the videos that I shared with you come directly from the producers. I have the links to the videos and the links to the producer's channel. It's right here. Vince Dow is the producer of this video. The link to this channel is, if you click on that, boom, it's going to take you to Vince Dow's channel. So there you have it. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out. Let me go ahead and get the screen up. I don't know if you even saw that or not, because I lost the screen on that. But let me show you again. You click on Vince Dow, boom, and it takes you to Vince Dow's channel. All right, getting back here. Let me share some information here from Westwood One Sports. Great if you're a football fan, if you like the NFL, great information.
Hey, football fanatics, are you ready for some primetime NFL action? Tune in to Westwood One for all the gridiron glory you crave.
From jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays. Don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood One.
You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on the Westwood One Sports app, on WestwoodOneSports.com via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports.
If it's the NFL, it's on Westwood One.
Okay, we have, looks like we have about 90 people watching this video right now, which is great, 91 people. Let me go ahead and do a quick refresh on this. We have, 94 people watching. I've got 3 thumbs up. Okay, so, if I could get about 91 of you to slide down and give me a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate that. And if you're not following my channel, please do so. I produce these daily news updates every day, Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. And I try to give out information that's, been dropped during the day, current information, and no nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth stuff. The kind of stuff you're not going to get on the mainstream media like MSNBC or MS Now, whatever the frick it is, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS. Okay, I try to give you, the facts. And over here at Murtech.com, these videos that I've shared with you today are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. This is your one-stop shop for the information that you're not going to get from the mainstream media. Now, I don't have time to share all this information with you, but I do have my daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30, where I have over 60 videos of information that's dropped all day long, so you'll get current, recent, no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth information that's been dropping all day long. So go ahead and take a break, grab a donut, a cup of coffee, grab a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30, and we'll get our daily news wrap-up started for you. Okay? So with that being said, I do want to thank you for the time you spent with me today. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.